Power Platform in 2025. But we've been doing Power Platform for a while. In 2025, is it the same beast? We're going to find out, yes or no. We're going to do some AMA, ask anything that's going on. And for the folks that are here live, and those of you who are not, you're missing out. Lou Malnati's at the end. So we met Craig, we saw me. We're going to see who else is here and who else is on the line. Let's see first, maybe a round table over here on this side, starting with, next to Aurelio, Mr. Brendan.
Pleasure to meet everyone. My name is Brendan Dunnigan. I'm a senior consultant at Sageti for the last few years, and I've been working exclusively within the Power Platform for the last 4 or 5 years, and happy to meet everyone. Happy to be here.
Great, let's continue on. Say hello.
Hi, everyone. My name's Dan Ray. I'm a former Microsoft employee. I'm in charge of the Chicago Microsoft Alumni Network.
Yes.
And I am a Microsoft 365 MVP in apps and services. So met Ralph and a bunch of other folks that are either former Microsoft and or MVPs and or Microsoft certified trainers. And I've been teaching Microsoft Teams communications and meetings today from the Microsoft office here in Chicago.
Dan knows the peoples, and he really does. Okay, let's continue.
Hello, I'm Diana. I've been developing Power Platform solutions for about 4 years, and I think I haven't been here for about 3 years,
That's
months. So I'm glad to come back to the meeting.
Yes, thank you so much. Let's continue.
Hey, I'm Dimitri Platnikov. I work with within SharePoint ecosystem now with M365 plus Power Platform for last 15 years. I was a member of Microsoft MVP community for 6 years, but now I'm like alumni for the network. Still like in the.
You're on your way back.
Yeah,
It's like a good start.
People and check to see if anybody else can. I got stickers.
Go ahead. Now we can drive.
Go ahead.
My name is Brian. I am a SharePoint guy, Teams guy, Power Platform, and started as InfoPath. And so I've been with Power, following along Power Platform since the early days. Doesn't mean I know everything about it though. I just have been doing these kind of things for a while. And I am a SharePoint guy. Hopefully there's other SharePoint people around here too. And I'm happy to. That's how we all got started.
Yeah, we're all SharePoint.
Yeah.
Yes, let's continue.
Hello, everyone. My name is John. I'm an AI/ML technical sourcer at Cisco. I primarily work in Power BI and do a lot of prompt engineering work with our internal LLMs.
Great. All right, let's see who else we have on. Well, Ankit, you're on video. You might as well say hi to everyone and let us know where you are from.
Hey, everybody. I am from the western suburbs. I'm from Bartlett, so not that far from Craig. Although Craig and I have never gotten to meet yet. I got into Power BI, Power Platform about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and I'm loving it so far. And this group is amazing. Keeps you informed. So thanks for joining, everyone.
Great. Ed, you came online.
Yes, I did. Craig thought I was going to be there in person, but I'm not, obviously. My story is a little bit different.
Office, because that's not a backdrop, is that?
It's a backdrop.
Because I was going to say, wow, you're a different time zone.
I am not
It's
really.
sunny out there, I guess. But that's the office outside. That's the picture of the office at
The old
Downers?
Spaghetti office. Correct. Current Follett office. Old Spaghetti. Same towers, yes. So yeah, I'm a little bit different background. I was a SharePoint guy, 365 guy. I used to organize conferences with Craig a while back. Now I'm focused on leading delivery on accounts, but still have an interest in the Power Platform, still play around with it, but I'm not as hands-on client and work-wise as probably the rest of you. But so I'm a closet user at this point.
Ed Aurelio actually owns his own brewery in Mexico, and he bottles beer. So I was going to hook him up with you because I know you still bottle your own beer.
I have not done that for years. I
Oh,
learned that.
never mind. He sucks.
So you're letting it age? Is that what it is?
I'm letting it age. I've learned that my brewing skills aren't the best. I can buy better beer than I can make, unfortunately. So.
Oh, okay. Well, next time I go to Binny's, I know who to take.
So Ed used to come to my user groups before, and we used to do user group stuff before, back in 2010 to 13, and then Ed was me and Ed did SharePoint Saturday with a couple other guys
So that was a once in a year conference that was kind of going until COVID hit. So we were doing it out at the DeVry in Addison every year, and then COVID hit. So then we started doing it virtual, and that's when Ralph.
That's where the M365 Chicago came from.
Exactly. Yeah.
So thanks, Ed. Ed's like a special guest. Proud of Ed. So
Indeed.
Ed lives very close to me too.
Okay.
I do.
His now hobby is
We're all in the neighborhood so far. Anyone else online care to come on? If not, then we will proceed with the festivities. It's okay. Witness protection is,
We have Anthony talk. Or is he going to say?
Anthony did say hey earlier while you were,
I'm here.
you had stepped away.
We're going to
Right.
go ahead.
Let's go ahead. Really quickly, that's just to Jetty what we do and what we got. We'll leave this. I think we give copies of the slides to folks later on.
Move it out.
Let them read it later. No need. I'm not here to sell. I don't need to. At least I hope not. Let's go on to the next slide over here.
He is paying for the pizza though.
You must sell though. Tell us all about the innovation hubs, which appear to be all over the world, sir.
Yes, so Microsoft has 40 plus innovation hubs, like 15, 16 in the United States. So what we do here is we meet with like leaders of company, and they come in and kind of talk strategy. So we'll do anything from envisioning sessions to, hey, this is what you can do with our projects or products, to architectural design. So like they decide we want to build a power app that does certain things. We want to do systems. We want to do like, we need a lot of help with our security architect. We'll actually sit through and talk to them and walk through. We don't do slides so much as it's more, we actually just do demos and pulling up the tools and going, this is how you do this is how you do that, and whiteboarding sessions and that kind of thing. And Realio does hackathons, prototypes, and all of that kind of good stuff. I don't.
So can any customer come to the innovation hub and say, show me?
No.
Dang.
You just can't show up. If you are a decent sized company, and I don't even know what it is, the requirement.
Okay.
No.
I don't, but it's from small companies to large companies.
Yes, but you have to have your sales rep has to in a.
You arrange it ahead of time, you know.
It's usually is 4 to 6 weeks out. You can do longer. You can do. Sometimes we have openings shorter, but you just talk to your sales, your account executive, or your ATS if you've got one of those, and they can.
Basically, the call to action there is know your sales something for Microsoft, and if you don't,
Well, they'll put in a request, and then our director Rose will talk to them and kind of figure out if it's a fit for being here. So yeah, that's it.
a highly recommended experience for the folks that are of size and you have not done it before. What you waiting for?
And it is a free thing, so we are more than happy to talk to anybody.
Can't get any better than that.
So-
All right.
And the little side pitch that we always get is we're not really quota driven. So we're more solution focused. Like if you have a business problem, you're stuck, don't know how to move past it. That's what we talk to. We don't go, you know what, you really need to look into Power Automate. You need to buy Power Automate Premium and all that kind of stuff, because I don't really care how the problem gets solved. That's the sales team's job, is to get the licensing and all that.
Very good. Wonderful. All right, really, some notes before we start. Let's go ahead and click the next part. A book alert. It used to be a new book alert. This book came out. I helped review it. And in fact, if you click on the slide, I think it shows the picture of the reviewers over here. Here's the thing. DevOps is still a very important thing to me outside of Power Platform in general. But this one, the only reason why I put my name to it as far as a review is because it actually covers everything that is actually important, that actually is current. Things that are in different workshops and different classes and different conferences, all broken up, is in a single book. And what I understand from these folks is that even though there's a physical book, which of course goes out of date almost as soon as it's printed, they keep up with it online. So if you purchase the book, you want to get a freshened version of it like every few months and stuff, that's a good idea. That makes the book worth it. So for the folks that are doing admin, doing DevOps, highly recommended.
A little shout out to our user group and our community days event.
Yes, of course. All right, let's continue. All right, so what else do we have to say over here? Let's look at Power Platform. Basically, that's what we're looking at. What is Power Platform today? I believe these are the latest of the greatest icons. Microsoft has this update your icons once a month thing going on. And so far, they haven't changed, at least in the few months. Knocking on wood, Microsoft, can you confirm?
Office, is that the Office 365?
Any of those icons changed? Now is the time to tell me. All right.
We still use the one for Office 365?
So so is there a newer one for Office 365?
I
Because,
only know the M365 Copilot.
well, they have the Copilot one, but I can't mix and match the Copilot.
Yeah,
So,
there is.
all right.
I believe there is a new one, and it says like M365 has like the Copilot thing on it. It's like now like infused.
Oh,
in
it's
I
got the
believe.
little blue swirl too.
It's like the blue swirl. Okay, so that's going to be my next update for changes. So I appreciate, see, this is why we come to these sessions to learn these things. This is important. But I got managed environments in there. I got data connectors in there. Data connectors has an icon. Yes. Power Pages, we've got that Copilot Studio. Okay, I think we're good. These are basically the Power Platform, and we're just reintroducing it to everyone. The only thing not here yet is Office 365. So where does that come into play? We'll find out. Let's go to the next. All right. Yes. I like this little, I'm not sure if the animation is working on the presentation over here. It doesn't seem to want to come through. There is an animation there. Just go back.
It slid.
There would have been a nice animation. Well, that animation worked because Copilot Studio was in there. All right. The idea, of course, is in the center of all this. You saw Dataverse. The whole point is Dataverse is probably the most important piece to the whole equation. Whether or not you're going to use it for premium reasons or whatever reasons you're going to use it or not, it is underlying all of Power Platform. So that's why we want to make sure that we emphasize that. Plus, we're talking about low code, no code, code first. Everybody welcome.
We had a session today where we were talking to a customer who was using SharePoint as most of their
For their data.
backend data source, which you can use.
Sure.
But when you try to build Power Apps and stuff at scale, you may not want to do that. So
Yeah. So and when we say scale, it doesn't mean that SharePoint can handle big. It just means that SharePoint's not meant to be treated like a big database, relational database system. That's what we really mean there.
yeah, it's just hard to manage and maintain long term.
Exactly.
So
It's painful.
you have a little pitch on that? You talked about it. You want to?
I will say that SharePoint, it is not a database. I don't know if you remember that drop from Bart Simpson
We
drop.
used to say that about Excel. Excel is not a database.
Not a database.
Now we're saying SharePoint's not a database, and then
So
Word is not a database. It's not a spreadsheet, and PowerPoint is not a Word document yet. That's what we seem to be using. I'm just saying. Okay, proceed. Let's continue. Okay, discussion agenda. We're going to start. With Anthony. He's remote, so we want to give him a chance to get in because if he sticks around and watches us eat pizza, it's just not going to be.
Oh, it's Anthony's anniversary today. So with it.
That's even more important. Did you send him a gift? I hope so.
I suck.
He did. He did. He was thinking about me. That's all.
Sent a link to this deck and said, drop your slides in here.
Everyone, happy anniversary. We need maybe Raquel can put on the stream like little
How many
celebrations
is that?
later. We'll do a post edit and have a thing over there. So you're going to
That'd
go
be
first.
great.
I'm going to go next and talk about apps and automate.
Cool.
Brendan, my colleague over here, will talk Power BI. We're going to go to Aurelio for Power Pages. And then we're going to have a little discussion here on what's coming up in 2025. Just be a very fast thing of what we're going to do. And then the social time. And hopefully by that time, the pizza will be here along with everything else.
Yeah, I'll have to.
Just watch out for it. And if my phone rings, somebody tells me.
Right, a little side note, because I forgot to do that. If you all need to go to the bathroom, if you just go down the hall that way and around, that's where the bathrooms are. So it's about halfway around the building.
Yeah.
Well, it's about a quarter of the way around it from here. If you need anything to drink, there is a coffee machine down that way too. If you come out here, there's coffee, there's water. That actually will do coffee and chai tea lattes and hot chocolate. There's also a water fountain. If you want any kind of Coke or what else? Water or sparkly water. There's a little refrigerator out there, or I can go get you something. Just let me know.
There we go. So that's one thing that we either miss or don't miss from actual Teams meetings.
I forgot to bring
Where the facilities are.
Yeah, right.
a code of.
All right, Copilot Studio. Just really quickly over here. This is the right out of the in-a-day course. They gave us this particular slide and said, "Hey, this is all good stuff that you can do out of Copilot Studio." But we're just going to hand it over to Anthony, who will give us.
Get through inside. There was a slide here that said hand it over to Anthony.
Yeah, well, actually, not. It's we took out the handover to Anthony because we know that we were going to hand it over.
All right, Anthony. steal the, stop, I'm gonna stop sharing, you share, and you do whatever you want.
Oh, okay. You
He's gonna
can,
share from his set.
yeah, actually, I don't actually have it open. I closed it out because I thought you guys were gonna share. If you want to share just the slides, and then I can share on my
yeah,
side,
yeah.
the web when I'm ready.
All right, so share on your end and then you'll drive and then Anthony will let you know when to proceed.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what I'm doing.
One day the co-pilot will do that for us.
How do I share?
And one day might be soon, just not that I know anything.
Try that again.
There we go. All right, you want to start here, Anthony, or start at the next one?
Next one, please.
Next one, yes. And there we go.
All right, so I'm gonna start with kind of this is an exciting one because it helps us at our organizations, understand, what's possible with Copilot, not only by, all the new features that are coming out, but with Copilot Chat now, we're able to enable our entire organization to use Copilot, and essentially it's free. So, I mean, this is kind of like that's kind of the high level of it, is that Copilot Chat is now free to the organization. And this is just Copilot Chat. It's not Microsoft 365 Copilot, because that's different. Copilot Chat is going to be the free version of it. So you only get the LLM that you're going to be bouncing off of, your questions off of. It's not going to be graph grounded. And the way that this ties back to Copilot Studio now is that you can publish your agents and allow your non-Microsoft 365 Copilot users to use Copilot Chat and enable those agents inside the chat now. So kind of tying all these worlds together is we have a world of people that have Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, the license that's $30 a month. And then we have Copilot Chat, which is completely free, and it's a very subset number of features. And now tying those two together, you're able to make agents inside of Microsoft 365 Copilot, specific agents, so driving towards specific positions of where your reference data is, being able to tie that information, create instructions, and help somebody, have this assistant that they're able to use for whether it's a subset of documents, it's on a SharePoint site, or it's tied to SharePoint sites, public sites. But again, you're able now to tie your infrastructure with folks that don't have that Copilot license, but you do have to pay on a message basis. I'm not going to get into all the licensing because that's outside of my realm.
The L word, that's my realm when it comes in. But even that, I need an update because you guys threw me for a loop. And now making this available in this way, it's like, I got to go do my homework now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I won't be, it gets kind of crazy with all the different licensing. I won't dive into that, but this next slide that we're sharing here does touch on it a little bit. There's a message pack that you can buy at, I forget what the number is now. It's $200 for 10,000 messages. And so with that, you can see on screen how you're able to utilize those messages, and that's on a monthly basis. Now, the special thing here is that, since, I don't know, a few months ago, now we can hook up the PayGo meter for our Copilot Studio interactions. That's kind of always been around, but not at the tenant level. And now, so because we have it at the tenant level, now we can start using it for those agents we were just talking about. So some of those agents, any agent that's going to be used for somebody that doesn't have a Copilot license is going to have some type of charge behind it for a certain number of messages based on their interaction with it. Very inexpensive. If it's billed to the PayGo meter, it's going to be a 1 cent per message. And then you can see here how that can quickly kind of add up over time, depending on the different data sources that you have and what you're connected to inside a Copilot Studio, inside an agent that you've shared out. Did someone have something to say?
No, I was just saying it's like it's pennies and pennies, and now we know how you guys get rich. Saying.
Yeah, it's the pennies. The pennies add up. It's the baby steps, right? They turn into big steps.
Wonderful.
So this is kind of, again, we're talking about messages there. We're talking about previously, before that, we were talking about sessions, and you have a number of sessions. Now it's messages. I'd hope they just go back to sessions. But where we're at right now, you kind of saw there just from the billing rates over time that could add up. But being strategic on where you save people time, maybe 100 messages to one person to help solve their problems is going to be a little bit. It'll save them 2 hours of work by spending $1. So it's kind of investing in ourselves. But not only that, it kind of gives instead of paying paying for all the licenses or all employees to have a license at $30 a pop, this is a way that you can kind of try before you buy as well. So again, just more kind of new features that are out there, including some of the message breakdown, which has been a hot topic not only on LinkedIn, YouTube, and a lot of back channels. So we'll see kind of where that goes in the new year.
I got a note in that to cover later though, on the ROI for that. We'll do that at the end. Continue.
Cool. All right, so next one here, improve SharePoint responses with semantic search. So this one specifically is really special, and I have a follow-up page after this one that's going to kind of explain, show side by side how this can make a difference. So you can see here that on the left here it says without semantic index, and on the right it says with semantic index. So this is now inside of Microsoft 365 search. If you don't have any Microsoft Copilot license, you're only going to see without semantic index. If you have it on the right side there, if you have a single license in your tenant, it'll start to sync all of your data through that semantic index and start giving you different enhanced results. And that's going to be inside of the Microsoft 365 search. But what I'm talking about here, if you go back one slide for me just for a second, I just wanted to showcase kind of the differences of what's possible there between without semantic and with semantic, and we can go over some of those details. But turning this on, you can either turn it on at the, or I guess you could turn it off at the environment level if you want, or you can, or at the chatbot level. But at what you're seeing here, it says preview feature, enhanced search results. This is on the main page of when you're building a when you're building a Copilot Studio chatbot. You're able to turn on this enhanced search results. That then allows this Copilot Studio to use the semantic index as it's working through its documents and its knowledge sources. It'll use that semantic index with the enhanced search, and we'll walk through those details. One thing that I wanted to mention, with enhanced search, if you go back one slide, actually, just really quick. With enhanced search, it's that, which one is it here now? The graph rounding 30 messages. That's going to be the one that comes with that enhanced search. So every time you use that semantic index, it's going to be the 30 messages, and it's just, I think it's one time per session, if I remember correctly. In either case, what that does though, it does cost a little bit more to have that turned on. So there is kind of a caveat there. By having that turned on, there's some licensing, well, not licensing, but there's message implications.
It's a cost implication, basically.
Yep.
All right. Still, these are so far game changer. I'm like taken aback a little bit. Proceed.
So we can go next one here. I just want to point out a couple of the differences. On the left, if you guys have worked with SharePoint, like half the people in the room probably have, over the last 5 years, you've probably seen the same kind of search that we've always had for the last, let's say, 10 years. Because before that, we were customizing search, making it look all different kinds of ways, and I would say it looked beautiful. But where we're at now is we have the Microsoft 365 search. It brings in the results on the left, and you can see how that's really helpful, right? We have the icon, we have the title, we have a little bit of description, when it's last modified, who's it modified by, things like that. But now on the right is that new semantic index search, and you can see how these answers that we're looking to get back, it looks more like Bing. It looks more like a way it's kind of summarizing it up top. It may say, I'm going to be including this, or I'm going to rewrite it this way, just in case if you misspelled something. But ultimately, it's helping you find your results. It's smart enough to be able to do that. And you can start to see more relevant information, including who shared the information with you, or why this is showing up, frequently asked questions, and things like that, where it's bringing up, it's like that next level of search.
So the promise of Bingifying SharePoint search has finally come true then. That's what that's what it feels like. So they've been promising this for a while. They're like the Bing version in SharePoint.
Yeah, yep. And so one thing that's really special about it is because we're running that semantic index, it's giving us more ability to search through these documents at a deeper level and make more sense of them. So I don't want to quote it, but I remember looking at the documentation. There's a handful of documents that work through that semantic index and it can dig into the documents at 200 megabytes. So anything that has 200 megabytes or smaller. So that's a pretty big size for a single file. And then for, I forget what the next, there's specific content types. That's what it was. There's specific extension types. So PDFs, PowerPoints, and I want to say Word. It's like those three that are treated special that we can go up to 512 megabytes with. So just knowing that because we have this additional semantic index, it's allowing us to search deeper in our documents and make more sense of them without having to open them.
Whew. Okay. Feels like news. All right.
Yeah. Next one here, knowledge tuning. I am floored. I cannot wait for this one. This one's pretty special. Being able to click on these different suggestions, that's again, AI on the back end. It's saying, hey, you know, we're looking at this. There could be some room for improvement. Do you want to track this? Do you want to open the analysis? So again, what this is allowing us to do is if you have multiple data sources that are connected to a Copilot Studio, you can start to say, I want you to pull answers from this set of documents or content or this knowledge source, let's keep it that way, from this knowledge source, but then keep these as a backup in case you don't find answers there. We're going to start to be able to fine tune how AI digs into that information and where it pulls out the most information from, or maybe where it starts from. I haven't played with it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. Let's see. This one's pretty sweet. Let agents analyze images for you. So in your Copilot Studio, you are allowed to you're allowed to enable now folks to use Copilot Studio and upload a single image to it, and then it'll actually analyze that image for you in different ways. If you click the next button, there's just an image that pops up. I know it was kind of overlaying here. You can see that where you're able to actually turn that on. Because again, I'm sure that there's going to be a cost, you know, some type of cost associated with that. This came out really recently, so I'm not too up to date on turning this on and kind of what the implications are from a cost perspective. But again, I think that's pretty cool. Having the file upload, that's essentially what that is. Being able to input that and then it can run some analysis for you. That's going to be a game changer, I think, especially for like frontline workers or people that are out on the road. If it's a specific bot that's looking for something specific, maybe they take a picture of something and then it'll analyze the image and then start asking them questions about it. So bringing the right information to the right people at the right time.
The stuff we used to build with cognitive services and all those other machine learning and all that stuff, you basically bypassed all of them. Or, yeah, I see why it's going to.
This is in relation to a specific agent you're building, but Copilot, the mobile app,
Yeah.
you can use it from your phone and it upload pictures to it.
That's true.
So
yeah,
I've used it to help my daughter do her homework. I took a picture of
That's true, but it's going to.
her geometry homework and it would go out and solve it and give me the whole detail and the formulas on how to do it. It was actually pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's. Okay.
Because I'm not up on my geometry, so I needed it, but.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I wouldn't know where to start with that. So I'd probably do the same thing.
All right.
You'll get your kids old enough to have to do that.
Meanwhile,
Soon. And then last but not least, security and data loss prevention updates. So this one's kind of boring, so I put it at the end. But at the end of the day, DLP updates, there's the agents that are out there. Previously, we didn't really have to abide by all the rules in the DLP policy. They had a soft enable for a while because they realized, hey, we kind of forgot some agents that are out there running wild. Now all the agents on all accounts are now required to follow the data loss prevention policy that you may have set inside of your organization. So previously you could turn on a soft enable and then it would just like basically show a warning sign saying, hey guys, this is not going to work, you know, going forward at some point. And then you can customize that message. Now going forward, it is actually completely enabled on all tenants. So people, if you are in an organization, if you haven't seen this yet, I'm sure you're going to start seeing it, and you built Copilot Studios and you're going against the grain of what those DLP policies have said at the organization, you'll start to see some errors pop up.
okay.
So that's the last slide there. If we have time, I can jump into just a couple of things I was going to walk through. If we want to skip that, we can. Up to you.
Let's take a look real quick. Let's go ahead your screen real fast.
Okay.
Along with that, so I just got something to add. Along with the, I don't know if you're planning on covering this, similar to the data loss prevention, me and Aurelio ran into this. We were creating an agent for HR where we were saying, hey, go back through my emails and go back through my chats and stuff and see what I've been doing, compare that to my goals worksheet, and evaluate my performance. And when we went to publish it, we got an error that said, hey, you're asking the computer to evaluate a human, and that's against responsible AI.
Yes.
And there's a whole page of stuff that we consider
Responsible AI story on that as well. My favorites, because like I was doing a Copilot workshop, and they said, hey, they saw what he could do. It's like, I see mails from your boss. Could you ask Copilot what your boss thinks of you? Well, that's interesting. So I said, in Outlook, what does my boss think of me based on all these mails? And it basically said your boss, and it gave the name of my boss, which was the correct name. And it says, your boss is blah, but I can't tell you what he thinks about you because I'm not supposed to. However, you can go to HR. You may want to ask them. And that's what everyone laughed. They're like, oh, I got to go to HR now to talk to them. Something is up. The Copilot knows something. And that's a responsible AI thing.
I've gotten information back from Copilot on that, asking how would you help me better understand how my relationship is going with my manager. So, and then it gave me lists, and I said, give me lists of opportunities and ways that I can improve. And it made me seem like I have so much to work on. I'm like, okay, well, let's just shut that off now and stop asking questions. I'm just kidding. It didn't actually do that, but it did give me a ton of information, and it did help me out. I actually haven't went back to it since I first did it. So I wonder if that's maybe under the responsible AI thing, and maybe I can't do it anymore.
It's gotta be. It makes sense. Okay. Hey, you're going to show something here.
Yeah, real quick.
Look, Copilot uses Copilot.
Exactly. So I won't spend too much time on this. I'm sure most people have seen this at this point. You can use natural language now to kick off the start of your Copilot journey here, your Copilot Studio journey, by building a Copilot Studio with natural language. So you're able to type a message in here, ask it questions. You're able to have it build specific connectors, specific topics for you. Ultimately, I mean, it can get pretty far. I've watched some demos. I've done some demos where taking it from 0 to 40%, but 40% from a production style thing, or maybe 30%, depending on what you're actually doing. But it can get you a good framework. I wouldn't say that it necessarily builds it entirely for you and that you can stop thinking about building things and just use Copilot, but it does send you down that right path and get you started. And I think it's really great at POCs, just getting started, showcasing that, hey, this is a possibility, and then going back and probably building that myself. Maybe I have trust issues, but at the end of the day, it works pretty good.
All right.
So I'm not going to go through that step right now, but I did just want to show a couple things here. We have some agents in terms of templates. More and more templates keep popping up. Actually, a ton more have popped up since I last looked at it. And you can kind of see into the future a little bit here. These ones are coming soon. They're already being worked on. More than likely, we may have access to them at Microsoft already.
CV match, check it out.
Yeah,
CV match right there.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm looking at you. I need you. I had to build you. Now you built it.
That's a big one. Yeah. And so there's all these templates that are out there. If you just click on one. Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
Show tomorrow. I didn't think about that.
Nope. That's right.
I want to know where the future.
Proceed.
I'm sorry.
Oh, proceed. Sorry. So we have.
Sorry, I was talking internal politics.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Not politics.
You can see the description, the instructions. It really builds it out. Knowledge sources. It's pretty awesome. So if you haven't gotten started yet, it's a great place to get started. Microsoft has already built all these templates out, had teams of people build them out. Now they're published, and you can go out there and get started really quickly. One thing I just wanted to quickly touch on inside of the Copilot Studio chatbot area, I wanted to show you the new homepage for the Copilot Studio. Most people, anybody that's opened this in the last 4 months, 3 months, you've already seen it. But I did just want to kind of show anybody that is new a couple things here. Scrolling down, we have the AI orchestration. This is my absolute favorite one. So being able to turn this on, turn it off. Basically, if you type in a question, you have different topics. It'll jump through those with you. And so if I just say hi here, it'll change the, misspelled that, but hopefully it knows what I'm doing. Let's see how smart it is if it can tell me. Yep, okay, good. It picked it up, said, hey, I think you said hi. So you can see here that it's driving where this is going right now. This is the activity map. And it's going to pull and stitch together all my different topics based on what I'm asking. So if I said, hey, I want to add a new project. It's going to start pulling in different topics based on what I'm looking for. So before it just started with greeting, now it added this new one, and it's going to daisy chain these together based on that AI orchestration on the back end. So again, using AI to help me kind of chain these things together without me actually having to build it and form it together takes a ton of work off the builder, the maker. We have the knowledge sources here. We won't go through that. Actions. That one's not too special right now, but triggers, the autonomous triggers. This is the way that you would make your Copilot Studio into an autonomous trigger. Sorry, into an autonomous Copilot. So turning it on, click on triggers here, and then you're able to kick off your Copilot Studio with these different triggers, just like you would in Cloudflows. And actually, they are, yeah, they're tied together on the back end. If you guys haven't clicked on these before, it's really cool. I won't go through it now because I know I'm running out of time here. But clicking on it, it actually attaches a Cloudflow to it, and then you can start modifying things. It's really awesome. So having built something in Cloudflows, it ties the two worlds together and gets me really excited. Outside of that, I think that kind of leaves that leaves me where I'm at. We're gonna have Microsoft Build come up pretty soon here in March. So that'll be pretty cool. I think there's gonna be new things that are coming out there. I think, as in I know. So I'm really excited about that. But also this whole year, I mean, you guys are hearing about the agentic world and all the things that are coming out right now, and how agents are kind of the new best thing, and we're going to continue to see these. What I see right now is Microsoft was leading the curve. We have all these other competitors that are coming around, and now we're going to be more neck and neck of where we are with generative AI and how we're able to use it and how we're putting that out for our customers. But what that competitiveness does for us is now we're not only learning from ourselves, we're also learning from other people. And because we're able to learn from each other, I just see us, all of us, kind of raising the bar as to what we can do. And agents are at the center, or I guess at the spear of that, where we're going to see a lot of great things happen this year with agents.
All righty. Whoa. Yeah, we had to give that like a lot of effort. My point in this case, why we wanted to give that more space, is because this is really, if we want to talk about what Power Platform is in 2025, what is the difference? Power Virtual Agents used to be at the back, just that little thingy that made bots. Now it's sitting at front with the power to do massively everything, to handle everything, at least look like it's handling everything, it's touching other things for sure. That's why it was worth making the statement of that. And now everything that follows after that might seem like a little sad compared to Copilot, but there are changes. That's why we want to show them. So let's go ahead back to our slides and take a look. Thank you, Anthony. And we'll make sure send your wine bill to Craig as soon as you guys are done.
Will do.
I think he said the Tempranillo is what you should be having.
Ooh, yes, sounds fancy.
I don't know anything about wine, so I didn't say that.
It's the Tempranillo. Okay, just kidding. All right, let's proceed over here on Power Apps. All right, Power Apps. The two things about Power Apps. There's Canvas and there's Model. For the folks that know all about Power Apps, you notice, but we're just giving you a reintroduction for the folks that don't do it too much. That hasn't changed. Canvas, essentially starting with the user experience, pixel perfect control. And if we click, just basically showing all the connectors you can do. Then the concept of the model-driven apps, where you take your data and you create an app quickly. I love model-driven apps a lot because basically it gets done immediately. I try to tell folks, maybe you want a model-driven app before you make a Canvas app. If the model-driven app will do it for you, you pretty much finished a lot of work that would have otherwise taken a lot of time. Do you really need a Canvas app? Do you need to have that look? Okay, then fine, let's go there. Admin apps is usually my favorite for model-driven apps, in case you're wondering. Let's go ahead. So the concept of the Canvas app to help the business users do things that would have required fancy app kind of work, connecting to any data, creating those forms, using it on any device in any way, shape, or form. Essentially, you're for the makers, the so-called makers, as they say, they're bringing in folks that have Excel and PowerPoint skills are all you need to do a Canvas app. Of course, we know when we do this actual work, you probably need a little bit more skills than that. But to be sure, for the so-called citizen developer that has a day job, yes, you can at least get something done. Let's go to the next one. The model-driven apps, meanwhile, meta-driven architecture, the data drives everything. The data drives everything, and this is mainly, I think model-driven apps is really the outcome of D365. D365 was the original model-driven app system. If there was anything like it, it was like, do it in this way and you will be happy. Follow the data. And this is what it is. You know, they say follow the money, follow the data, because data is money. So, and the idea, of course, is the stuff can be responsive. And yes, if you really want to go crazy, you can customize it. But at that point, then somebody better fork out a lot of bucks, because that's not going to be cheap effort-wise. Let's go on. All right, and what makes all this happen, and this is going to be the case for all the apps, including Copilot, is the concept of where Dataverse fits in, where the data that supports Power Platform in general is under the covers, Dataverse itself. So whether or not you're thinking you're using it or not, it's there. It's running everything, and it's running it at scale. If Microsoft's running thousands of tenants, hundreds of thousands of tenants, and with hundreds of thousands of instances of Power Platform in those areas, then they must have very large Dataverse things going on. So it must be worth something, right? But the concept over here is with Dataverse, it's like smart SQL, I guess. It's like the ultimate SQL that not only can you store data, but you can build apps out of it, and you can actually add rules to it. It's not just a trigger here or that little thing. You actually have the full power of the battle station to add to your data before you even make a single app. All right, let's continue. All right, and the idea, of course, is to bring it all into one high productivity set of applications. So this is just for the folks that want to go technical and say, where's Power Apps fit into all this? Well, technically speaking, it is part of the big picture. So whatever else you're doing, custom-wise or everything else, it can fit within the low-code scheme. Again, we play with everybody. All right, continue. Easy click. All right, the last thing I want to point over here is the application lifecycle. This is a very important concept. For the folks that are new to Power Platform as the low code, if you're doing citizen developer, I have my app. I build it, I run it, I'm done, I'm great, that's fine and well. But for most organizations, it's a case of like, it's got to sit somewhere where it's got to be cooked up and tested and everything else. It can't come out of the kitchen. Well, while it's in the kitchen, it's in development. And then when we're going to serve it up, it's in production. How do you get it there? Well, the waiter can bring it there. Well, your waiter is essentially the application lifecycle piece. It gets you from here to there. And in this case, we package it in the solution. So what's the solution? Think of it as the tray the waiter is carrying with all the food and all the pieces that are in there, or perhaps that whole team that's going to be up there. Bring the butter, bring the bread, bring everything else. That's what that's all about. In a restaurant, that's a very highly complex set of orchestration. Well, the same thing in regular code when we're moving that stuff out, and Power Platform has all of those elements. I think maybe in the last year, it has all come to bear. That's why we had that book, for example. All right, let's continue. I think we're at the end over here. Let's not do a quick look on this one. Actually, no. Well, let me do a quick look. Very, very quickly. I'm just going to give you one quick page of a look. So I'm going to give you an entire screen view. Please pardon my share for a moment. And sharing is caring. And let's go take a look at just the Power Apps over here. Just really quickly, if everyone can see Power Apps right now, and let me hide this over here. What you saw over there, Copilot, has Copilot to have it run? Well, guess what? All the apps, Power Apps and Automate, have the same thing now. The concept of the Copilot to create your apps, right? And they give you some suggestions. The idea is whenever you're starting with data, you have all the same ways of getting around. And now, basically, they made it such that Power Apps and Power Automate have a lot of the same systems that are available to it to be able to get through. We'll talk about Power Automate in a little bit. But for Power Apps, I just wanted to show you this piece over here, where that's pretty much where you're going to do a lot of your table stuff, a lot of your other apps. And let's click on the more over here. You'll see we have the websites, which is the portals. We're going to go to pages later on. The agents, that's your Copilot over there. Other things, the new catalog system for maintaining using stuff. There are so many changes in 2025 that came out just in the last year alone that it's worth going back here and playing through this. I'm not just over here using the Copilot to go through it. Try just the regular features. Try to use the samples. Follow the tutorials. And look, these tutorials used to be like 15 minutes. Now they're longer for good reason. All right. So that's my suggestion for the folks that want to learn more. Let's go back. Oops, we got to go back to the slides. How do we get back there? We lost Craig. Did Craig go get the pizza?
Yes.
He probably might be getting the pizza. Let me show you in automate. Oh, there, Craig, let's go back to the slides because we're done with Power Apps over here.
No.
So reshare.
More time.
We'll come back here in a moment. Little preview over there of approval solutions, process mining, AI hub, but we're waiting for the slides to come back. Just a moment, please.
Didn't work great. All right. Hold on a second.
Sharing screens is not as fast when
It wasn't that.
We're so used to our multi monitors, you know, that it takes us longer to find things. I can stop sharing too. That'll help.
Oh, it was just some try.
There we go.
It did not work. Hold on.
And let's bring up the slides.
It's coming. Can't. There was a problem.
Sharing.
All right.
And there we go. All right, let's talk Power Automate now. Oops, or we did.
It's not like me today.
It's supposed to go from where we started, but that's what happened when we clicked on
No,
try.
I was trying to share it through Teams so that it would not.
Oh, yeah, to share through Teams, yeah, that feature.
I jumped down too far. Let's here. Keep talking amongst yourselves.
Okay, well, we're trying to get to the Power Automate one so we can go through the Power Automate's info. All right, let's go.
It's not-
Automate.
Or this slide's next. Is that Power Automate? Oh, there's Power Automate. All right, slide.
Oh, because you're going through the web, so yep, share. All righty, Power Automate. Let's go. Let's go ahead.
To get more of a view like that.
We'll get there. We'll go through this very quickly. Again, holistic end-to-end intelligent platform for all. You're looking, by the way, at the old version of the user interface. Microsoft, your inner day is still showing the old version of the stuff, but a lot of that looks a lot better than it used to. And the concept is, again, WYSIWYG. I can select my stuff and make flow happen. Let's go ahead, click. All right, and then of course there's the automate, the desktop version of it. This is a very important piece, actually. As it turns out, there's more and more of this going on. The idea of taking those legacy applications and essentially turning them and automating them. And that's the Power Automate desktop. This is probably one of the most important features of Automate today, because everything else is like, well, you can do it that way. But this is not exactly citizen dev stuff, but it's very important piece for a lot of automation. Let's keep going. All right, so Automate, it's basically the service. It handles a lot of things besides connecting to the data, creating your workflows, editing it on the web, and of course, doing things very quickly, like all the approvals and stuff is now through Power Automate. Let's go ahead, click. And actually, we saw it already a little bit just earlier over here, so no really quick look on that one. So we can go ahead and go to the next piece, which is Power BI. So we have Brendan over here. My buddy did a lunch and learn for this, so let's do a quick breeze through on what Power BI is, because Power BI is, after all, Power Platform.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Power BI is not new. It's definitely been around for a while. So we'll just kind of, like Power Apps, go through just kind of recap and reintroduction of it. But Power BI is the primary visualization tool in the Power Platform suite, and it's a very powerful tool at that. You can do a lot with it. One of the key pieces of Power BI is that you can grab data from pretty much anywhere. It can come from flat files, it can come from databases. So it really helps organizations break down data silos and really help collaboration at a larger level. It is also for everyone. So that means from the executive level all the way down to frontline workers that are in the field. Power BI can really help anyone with their job and can really help drive important business decisions and making sure that you're informed before making such a decision. Right, click. Next slide, please. So real quickly, why use Power BI? As I mentioned before, it is the primary visualization tool. So it actually does a great job of allowing you to take complex data in a lot of different shapes and forms and really boil it down into different graphs, charts, or other visualizations that can help people make sense and understand what the data is actually saying. It helps people tell a story with the data to help you make your decisions. I won't go into it too much, but I mean, like, as you'll see in just a few slides, Microsoft, not yet, sorry. There are over 600 plus out of the box visualizations in Power BI, but you also, if you have the knowledge, you can create your own visualizations in Power BI for just more power or customization if you need it. Power BI is also very accessible. It's designed to be user friendly, so you don't need to be a pro developer to really get started in it. You can be a no code or low code developer or just a frontline worker that wants to play around with data. And it allows anyone to really get into the business of data and figure out what they want to find out from whatever data they have access to. It also allows you to integrate into a lot of different data sources. I mentioned earlier, you can connect to a lot of different data sources. It really can integrate into almost anything, and provides as little context switching as possible. You don't have to jump between multiple forms to get to the data that you want. You also get real-time insights with Power BI. So again, executive level all the way down to workers in the field can get the most up-to-date data to really drive important decisions that might be time-related or time-based. And then finally, it's really good for collaboration. Again, anyone can use it. You can share it with almost anyone in your organization as long as they have the proper licensing. Again, the L word. Move to the next slide.
By the way, if you have an E5 license, you get Power BI at the high level. You can actually share.
Or actually more recent, not super recently, but if your company is kind enough to get capacity, it can also allow you to consume Power BI without needing your own specific pro license.
There you go.
And then real quickly, how Power BI can be used. There's a couple different use cases for it. Main one usually is business reporting. It helps keep track of different metrics and data for different departments, anywhere from sales, marketing, operations. It helps users break the data down and do a lot of data analysis. It can help users understand large data, and I'll touch it in just a moment, but there are new methods for actually being able to interact with the data. Little shout out to Copilot in a moment. And then you do get to use and build interactive dashboards in Power BI. So you can take data from multiple reports from different areas, boil it into one single dashboard for convenience of use or just to make more sense of the data and share it out as a dashboard that way. So I won't go through the specific use cases, but again, different areas that can actually see a lot of benefit from Power BI is finance group, marketing group, and pretty much anyone who is looking for operational efficiency, removing bottlenecks or anything along those lines. We can move on. Another reason to use Power BI, and again, low barrier of access, is that Power BI desktop is free. Anyone can go out, download, and install it on their machine and start playing with their data right away. Next slide. This is just a quick view or example of what a Power BI dashboard could look like. But again, as with most of the Power Platform, Power BI is really only limited by your creativity. You can do a lot with it and make it look a lot of different ways, however you want. Next slide. As I just kind of previously mentioned, Power BI is starting to introduce natural language query and AI insights. This can help a lot of different people make sense of data. Sometimes looking at just a chart or map doesn't really give you the full story. So Power BI has actually been able to introduce a lot of good chat-based features for you to basically type a question into Power BI report, and then it'll spit back the answer for you based on the data that is in that report. So they're continuing to improve on that. As I mentioned previously, again, there's over 600 visuals that you can use either out of the box or free to download from AppSource. But again, you're not limited to that. If you have the knowledge, you can also build your own custom visualizations as needed. And so this is an example of one that looks a little more customized on the left-hand side, where you may be looking into an engine. But again, it's really only limited by your creativity. One of the key features of Power BI, again, as part of the Power Platform suite, is that it, again, integrates with almost anything. And some of the key highlights there is Excel, PowerPoint, SharePoint, as everyone here mentions they worked with before. But then really importantly, Teams, because everyone nowadays in this world of hybrid work is on Teams almost daily, and can introducing Power BI to that is, again, just another way of getting important data to every user as quickly as possible.
It's really funny. I expected to see more Power BI on Teams, but a lot of people forget that they can just put it on there, and then they'll share the Power BI, to share the URL. They said, you know, we're in a team collaboration. Why don't you just put it in the tab? It's like, oh, I can do that. And recommendation: if you have a report that you're using in your team, put it up there. They will thank you.
Yeah, so it's a really quick and easy way of getting, again, important data and insights into your team at just a click of a button. It takes 2 seconds to pin it to your team channel, and then your entire team has access to visualize that within seconds. Again, for most people who have already used Power BI, this will be pretty straightforward. But for anyone who maybe hasn't played with Power BI in a while, I think go back one slide. Yeah, there we go. Again, downloading and installing Power BI Desktop, it is free. Anyone can do that. Connecting to data sources is very quick and easy. I don't want to go through a demo and have you watch me click through it, but I'll quickly show in a few slides, again, just a brief example of the different type of data sources you can look at. Of course, once you have data, you want to transform and clean it. Data that is not clean is not useful to anyone. So you get a lot of useful Power Query editor tools to help you. And there's a simplified version for the low coders. And then, of course, there's advanced DAX for those that know what they're doing with it. And then once you have the data, it's really easy and straightforward to start create visualizations. Almost exclusively drag and drop onto your report. Very, very simple to work with. Again, once you build a report, you can create dashboards out of reports, and then you can publish and share it with any user really in your organization. Again, assuming that the licensing has been handled. So there's a lot of different ways to learn more about Power BI and to explore the world of Power BI. I highly recommend, if you haven't done that, to look into Power BI and just see what you can do and how you can use it to help your everyday job. So this is what I mentioned earlier, connecting to data. Just a small screenshot where when you're building a report for the first time, like most other the Power Platform, it can give you some templates to work from to start with to speed it up. But then on the right side, again, you just get a few examples of the different types of data sources that you can connect to, for anything from as simple to a CSV file to maybe something a little more complicated like a SharePoint library, an Access database, other on-premise databases. And you can even see Microsoft Fabric as a category on the left-hand side there for you to filter to. Again, you can get data from almost anywhere using Power BI. Slide. This is just the simple view of transforming the data, where you can, on the right, you'll see the applied steps. Again, change types, promote headers, reorder columns. It's a very simplified version of what you're doing to the data, but very easy for people to work with. And then this is the advanced DAX view. Again, once you get a little more hands-on and you can kind of really understand the DAX, you can really dive into it and do some really powerful things very quickly and easily. Don't let that scare you. That was actually some very simple DAX. It was just
So that was actually a simple DAX.
So it's the same thing as before, where all you're doing is reordering columns and whatnot.
For the SQL heads, they're going to be like, oh, that's no problem. Try cursor one time.
Right. This is just a few examples of the out-of-the-box visualizations. But again, you're not limited. There's plenty of them. There's 600 plus. And then this is just a nice little image of what a report that's finalized could look like. And again, with the different types of metrics or information that can come with it. Click, please. One thing that I didn't really touch on in the getting started, but is very important to Power BI is workspaces and the concept of workspaces. Basically, you can think of them as mini environments within your tenant for Power BI that can be used to separate out the different content and where it lives. Everyone by default does have access to the free My Workspace. So again, Power BI is free to utilize on your own, and you can build whatever you want within the My Workspace. But then if you need to share it, it needs to go into a published workspace. And again, best practice with the ALM, as Ralph was talking about, is going from dev to test to prod. And there are deployment pipelines in Microsoft Fabric that you can use with Power BI to assist with that. To help
and a note that their workspace is not the same as the Power Platform environment there.
They are
completely separate entities.
Really quickly on the right, you'll just see a small little snippet of a really cool feature in Power BI called the lineage view, where you can actually see all the different data sources that line up into one, what they call now semantic model. For people who have been around Power BI a little longer, it's what they renamed data sets. So if you're familiar with data set, that's what the semantic model is. And then you can see what reports are pulling from all the different semantic models.
That's cool.
So it is a nice little view for anyone who's developing in Power BI to see how your data is connected. Click, please.
Right. Next.
This is just a quick, again, sharing your work when you do have a workspace that's shareable is very simple, very straightforward to share. You can either use a shareable link. So for example, if you're just trying to drop it into a Teams chat for people to consume, or if you want to give direct access with an email, you can do that as well. Very similar to other Power Platform resources. This was mostly about Power BI, but of course you can't really talk about Power BI anymore without at least referencing or talking about Microsoft Fabric. And so Microsoft Fabric is the kind of parent structure where you get to connect with different Azure data services beyond Power BI, such as like Data Factory, Synapse Analytics, and other services. And Power BI is just kind of like the visualization tool used to really show data from all those different sources. And again, without going through and rehashing everything I've already talked about, Power BI has the seamless integration with Fabric and the different Fabric sources. It's all within the collaborative environment. You do get some enhanced capabilities when leveraging Fabric's data sources in science, including machine learning capabilities and possibilities. One thing that I did want to mention is that Microsoft Fabric Copilot recently, in a blog post from Microsoft, users can actually use Copilot in Fabric to write their DAX queries. So that complicated piece that you saw, trying to transform and clean your data, you can actually use Copilot AI to help you with your data, building your data sets.
That is beautiful.
So that is a cool on the cusp release for Microsoft. And then, of course, with Power BI in Fabric, other than just the centralized data management, which makes it easier to administer the data, it's very scalable. So it's very scalable for larger organizations to, again, use Power BI and all the data that comes with Fabric and extend it to every person in the organization as possible.
Righty. Thank you, Sir Brandon.
Anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
skip.
Well, we're gonna
Have more of just an open discussion. Normally, it's more free flowing, but we got a lot of information to cover.
yeah, we have a lot of information going through. Again, the chat is there potentially if someone wants to chat it out, but otherwise hold your questions. We're going to take care of it during the socialization. We can answer some of the stuff too. Power Pages is next.
All right. So I'm going to share.
They're going to share.
Yeah.
That's good.
I
All
do
these
not
PowerPoint
have
slides.
slides.
We got a lot of slides on Power BI still in here.
There you go.
There you go.
So I want to start a conversation that many of my customers always ask, hey, can we use a Power App to surface to my customers outside my tenant? Like, no. Can I do this with Flow on an external side? Yes, but no. So Power Pages is one of the tools that can help us to surface information to our external customers, right? Anything that's outside your tenant. And for the people who doesn't know, it's just a low-code, no-code tool to help you create web portals, okay? It gets tricky on the side of, okay, everything's gonna be low-code, no-code, but this is one of the tools in the Power Platform that gets very easy into the pro code, right? So for example, this is a simple web page that I built with Power Pages for a hiring event or other things, right? Don't pay attention to the context of the navigation or anything, right? But if you have plans of developing just a portal that it's simple and informational, or just a simple way to acquire information from your customers, like a form or something like that, then this is the best way to go, right? I'm not saying that it is not a tool that can help you create like big or very nice web portals. You have that option using HTML and CSS, but that's the tool that start pushing you a little bit more on the pro code. So it's that's the, like, it's a perfect collaboration that you can have with your low code citizen developers and also pro code when they need to create custom components and things like that, or branding or styling. That's where a full stack developer can help you get this done, right? And it's the easy integration with Power Automate flows and Dataverse to Power Pages can do that for you. One of the few components that it's new here is that, of course, AI. The grid section, it's incorporating this AI section that will help you kind of summarize and understand what you have here on this grid that it's coming from Dataverse. Okay, this is kind of like a hardware list of information, and you can connect that Dataverse table and grid with this AI component and can give you some insight and help you understand what it's there, right? Another thing is that going back here to the design portal, if anyone is familiar with SharePoint, that most of the people I heard here, they are familiar with SharePoint. It's an easy way to build the pages with this concept of adding web parts, for example. Let's go here, parts. There you go.
Looks very SPFX-y.
Yes, I was going there, Raul. So, come on. It's a little bit slow. Okay. So you have this concept of web parts, right? You have those web parts you can add to your web page. You have layouts that you can have like a 3-column, single column, double column, things like that, very similar to SharePoint. But you have the flexibility of creating your own layouts and templates, right? With CSS, HTML. You can use your custom components too, similar to SPFX. You can use, in this case, our PCF controllers, right? With React and all those things, right? So you have that flexibility here to create all that customizations. You also have that option of using, one of the cool things is that Copilot. You can tell Copilot to tell, hey, I have this brand, go to Microsoft.com, pull the branding and apply it to my webpage. And it will do that for you instead of you going to the style sheets and start typing and put the colors and things like that. So easy ways that these Copilot component can help you achieve that. And of course, Anthony talked about Copilot Studio. So you have that option of having that chatbot here in Copilot Studio Agent, where out of the box, it will look only into your tables that you configure in your Power Pages, but you can move it to Copilot Studio and extend it with more actions like Power Automate or other connectors like SharePoint, third-party connectors, things like that. So it opens that door to access that internal information that you have in your tenant and help you service it to your external customers. Okay. Questions?
And of course, the to be able to edit it, the choices are like you saw the WYSIWYG, but then of course you can go into code, and I believe there. Look, there's Visual Studio Code, in fact.
Exactly. So let's say that page, I'm start adding web parts, installing, but you know what? I cannot make that many progress on the style that I want or the kind of page that I want. You always have that option of open it on Visual Studio Code. And also use Copilot there to help you create those pages. And
the question is, do you need a GitHub license to be able to edit your Power Automate with it?
That I don't know. I know you can use the GitHub Copilot license, but I heard that you might use other Copilot just for this.
So if you want to use the fancy features of GitHub, by the way, you need to have a log. You have to sign into GitHub.
Correct.
And then if your log includes those services, you get them. But otherwise, you get a freebie. Here's the view. All I'm doing I'm just using the interface to connect to the the code that's in Power Platform underneath the covers. And if you try to save it anywhere else, you have to sign in. So the moment they catch you when you try to sign in. If you don't sign in, no harm, no foul.
That's right.
But this is cool, though. Look at this. Look at all the features that you can actually see. You could not do this with SharePoint. No way. Well, not since 2003 when you had that Visual Studio powers to do things.
And if you notice, by every page that you create, you have these folder. It creates your style sheet, your JS, and then your HTML. So
is that like in React or is that just JS?
This is just JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, and it uses Liquid as a
Liquid
to manipulate the pages and whatever it's behind on Dataverse or components or properties.
And the CSS it's Bootstrap, not the so-called what was that other one? The other UI that was.
I don't remember, but recently we migrated into Bootstrap.
Bootstrap
version.
Right, to be more aligned with everybody else.
Yeah.
Yes. Aha.
I have a question. You remember the old days of SharePoint Online? I can't remember the year they took it away, but you used to be able to do a public website on SharePoint Online.
Yes.
So they gave you they grandfathered you in, but eventually the year came when, okay, no more. If a customer says to you, like you introduced your session here, a customer says, can I do these Power Apps for my public? No, sorry, you can't. Would you say that Power Pages is Microsoft's answer to public websites then? There's no other product, right? That would be, you'd go with a Power Page and especially if you can crack open the hood and put in your own code. The question I'm trying to think of is like, are there any caveats you need to tell your customer when they ask something like this? It's completely licensing free, right? So,
So the caveat there, I mean, from the perspective of the flexibility that you have over the code and the easy integration with Power Automate and Copilot Studio, probably it's that the licensing model. So you have the part of going to decide as an anonymous person that you don't need to log in. That's one kind of license, and they charge you by anonymous user. And the other is logging user, which is Entra or a B2C or something. There are multiple security models that you can choose. But this will be the answer, like to those public websites.
I'm trying to think of some, and you may not have the answer to this, but I'm trying to think of some scenarios where a customer, the requirements would be such that I would still say, you know what, you probably would be better off doing a WordPress site than there's got to be limitations in this that keep you from building a full-on website, right? Or would Microsoft be okay with that? Is that the space they want to get into?
I mean, you have access to the entire code, okay, to that portal. I don't see a limitation, just perhaps the limitation will be if you're not a full stack developer, you won't be able to extend it that much, right? But I mean, it's there.
Aurelio, I think I see where this question is coming from, right? Because basically we understand that, okay, we could open it, we could, customize it, that's fine, right? But at the same time, from the strategic perspective, right, we're just trying to understand what's the kind of what's the goal, to utilize this platform, even though we say that, okay, it's kind of like unlimited, but at the same time, if it wasn't designed as as a competitor to WordPress or Wix, platforms like that,
or like an e-commerce kind of platform.
Oh, yeah, that I would ask what you want to do with your website, like, because the old SharePoint website, or I loved it because I was running my user group website off of that, but you couldn't reach into SharePoint internally and pull data out. So that was the limitation on that. And then they recommended actually that you go to Wix and get their website if you actually need an external.
So it sounds like it's similar to that model where basically it's a nice brochure style and web.
You can treat it that way, as out of the box can be treated that way. But you can always have that flexibility on going beyond, right? But that requires pro code.
So what I've seen, and you can probably talk to this better, but what I've seen is like government using it as a model, like local government, like, hey, I want somebody to go to this site to request a permit to build their deck. And you can they can go to it, they can pull up the information, everything they need.
Kind of like a form, right? That's kind of like a public form. So the question is like, no, wait. So the question is like, guys, do you see, because you should have that data, right? Because you like internal to Microsoft, but at the same time, do you see like where people are really using this platform instead of, their like really main public website and not just the form, not just for the, processes?
Not for the whole thing, but what I was saying is that it is like a form, but then they can track the whole process through.
Well, that's
on what,
I think that's the main use case, right?
So that's a use case. We see a lot of customers using it to surface product information and things.
I think Pages really came about during COVID, what they were trying to do very fast. And they used Portal, at the time it was Portal.
Bullshit.
And they wanted like all these municipalities and needed a way to track and track all the COVID stuff that was going on. So they created Power Apps for that. But it was Portal is really what.
I had to do something that was totally e-commerce. I'd probably do something with a shop.
And they were using the Dataverse to collect the data, but then the people that were coming in could have been from anywhere. But what they did is they collected it and the system handled it. They just checked the box that said, allow them to fill the form, but they can't do anything else. Everything, all the guardrails kept the users that were submitting from finding their way in to doing anything else, which older SharePoint, by the way, is like a big sign that says, come take me, I'm here, I'm open for you. So that was actually more secure. So that was cool.
On the commerce side, you mentioned commerce. So one of the things that it's coming is that you will be able to do commerce through Power Pages on the release plan. So there's some things that you will be able to do. To start doing those kind of sites.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're looking to replace like a WordPress or something like that.
Although get into that space.
I'm going to ask a different question because you seem to know WordPress. Like, what the hell have they done? Because I was not paying attention to my blog for a number of like months, and I went in and I can't figure out how to even edit anything anymore.
No, I'm no guru in WordPress. I just know that people who use it love it, and it's that same low code feel.
Oh, it felt like it was easier a year or two ago, but now I can't figure out how to do templates on my pages, or I screwed it all. I screwed my site up all big. So I wasn't asking to like, oh, that was more for common knowledge. Like, does anybody know how to use WordPress? Because I suck at it, and I'm thinking of moving it off that platform.
The pizza didn't come because apparently, and I didn't notice this, there was a problem. They wanted my confirmation on the time it was coming in, and because I didn't see that they sent the message, I didn't hit the button. And of course, now it says do you want to order it? Well, duh. It's gonna take an hour for that to come in. So sorry, folks.
Anyway, I mean, more questions about this.
Is that all you have?
That's all I have.
That's it?
The thing is that one of the things that people don't mention, it's also the integration with SharePoint. I mean, you can.
So we do have some
with
slides.
SharePoint, and you can use those components here to see that document management from this side.
So we do have.
The slides be included, just some basics on the Power Pages that we'll share for everybody later on. So nothing, you saw a lot of just about everything over here, but this is pretty much just a rehash of what we heard already mentioned.
I have a quick question, guys, about those Power Pages. So we mentioned a few times like a ALM concept in terms of Power Apps, Power Platform and Power BI. What about Power Pages in terms of different environments and this kind of
You can now include them inside a solution and go through the dev QA and production using pipelines.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And if you connect that solution into GitHub, now if you notice in the solution, you can connect to GitHub. Now you start doing that code repository and code versioning, all those things. So, yeah.
I think.
Do that. Templates, Design Studio, Hub. Where does that take us to? No pizza.
Another quick question about the Power Pages. It looks like with the very SharePointy with the web parts, how difficult is it to maybe build a simple Canvas app, or maybe nowadays you would use a page like model driven page and then embed that into your Power Page for users to consume?
You can. It's just that it's going to force you to log in. But a lot of customers say, hey, can I embed a Power App there? And I said, yes, but the experience is like, if you want to put it inside an iframe, sure, go ahead. It's going to look awful. But yeah, it's possible. It's just that you're going to force them to log in.
Oh, boy.
That's why we don't put you in charge of pizza. Last time you ordered weird pizzas and not enough, and this time you don't get it.
This time it didn't show up because of the, this is a move the cheese thing. First thing, when I got into the Lose app, it was different. All the things were gone, all my settings, my favorites, all that was not there. It somehow remembered this location though.
You got to call
It
them.
was the only thing it remembered. It would have been easier to call them. It's true. It's true.
So when we do our engagements here, they're usually 6 hours, 7 hours long. So we provide lunch to our customers.
Yes.
Yesterday, I was supposed to have Portillo's for lunch, and they decided not to, for some very similar thing. It didn't get thing. So we went to eat lunch and there was no lunch. So twice this week, I've gotten no.
Twice this week, you got, don't worry, we'll get you some food on the next one, sure. But otherwise,
You have mustacholi if you want mustacholi.
Lose, your app needs help. Maybe you could use some services that we might be able to offer, just saying.
Right, now we're gonna throw it out to roundtable, and Ralph is.
Yes, okay, questions for today. I can actually answer pretty much most licensing questions except for the curveballs that Anthony threw up today, which is the so-called pay-as-you-go, which is not exactly easy to answer. Because those, the last time I heard, at least on the Microsoft side, when I asked them, can you explain to me how this works? We're like, well, we're not sure, but we have a name for it. Okay, great. How does it work? Well, we're still working that out. So what did you figure out? The name. Okay, that's all wonderful. You saw that they're still trying to work out the Copilot pieces, but everything else in Power Platform is still works. When you need a premium licenses, when you need premiums, what are the premiums? What's the difference in Automate licenses and Power Apps licenses? When do you get one with the other? The Power Pages have not really changed on that side either. Those are still the same. The Copilot one, that's the one that's in flux. And they're trying to make it basically more palatable because originally it was like $200, 25K messages, and then every time $200, $200 regardless. A lot of people saying, well, ROI, I can show ROI, but no, people could not see beyond that. And they wanted to see, actual pieces that they can say, this license will give you this, as opposed to, I will not see my ROI until everybody is done using it after about a month of trying it out. Yikes. That was hard. So Microsoft fixed it. That's what Anthony was relaying to, all of those combos. So I can't exactly answer those questions just yet, but maybe in our next session, we will, because I will have come back from the MVP Summit with the answers to those. MVP Summit's in a few weeks now. So I'm going to that one to dive into the details, and hopefully none of it will be NDA as far as licensing goes. But otherwise, I can answer any question on any Power Platform item, potentially. Most everyone here knows stuff.
I have a question about
Yes.
agents. And
Yes,
so
agents.
do you have to configure security for the agents, or is it like, just as an example, if an agent is using Dataverse tables as a knowledge source,
Yes.
do you have to configure that agent to access those sources, or is it like the
Very good question. A very good question. So the question is like, you have to configure the security in the agent that's talking to your Dataverse? That's a very good question. Now, when you're doing an app, like a Power App, and you do a connector and you connect to your Dataverse, how do you do the security of there? You recall? Is there any do you have to do any security? I'm connecting. I created my Power App. I made a connector to that Dataverse table, and it pretty much just let me connect, right? I didn't have to put it, I didn't have to sign, maybe I signed in.
Yeah.
All right, and then that was it, and that was done. I didn't have to say, I didn't have to put any rules that said if I'm this user or that user. I would go into Dataverse itself, and maybe in Dataverse put permissions that this user can see that data. This user might see this column or anything else in Dataverse is where I'd set my permissions, right? So in other words,
To shorten Ralph's answer, the agent uses the user's permissions.
yes,
So it will automatically,
pass it along, basically, in a sense.
can't remember what the word is, but
So do you have to set up a security role then, and then make sure the user is a part of the security role?
Yes, so the same way in a Power App or a Power Automate that we would use for security for Dataverse.
it'll security,
Agent will
that's what I was looking for. It's security trims
Yes.
automatically based on the user's permissions. So if you had access to it, you would get it. But as part of creating the agent, you also have to point it to the data sources that you want. So it just doesn't, so
There's the other one where like you can choose like knowledge sources, say you choose a SharePoint site. If you chose a SharePoint site that's blocked to the user, they're gonna get a message saying it's blocked, or it'll just ignore it. Usually, I notice Copilot will just simply, you don't have access to something, I will not even acknowledge that it existed. You will never know that I will.
if you're going to build an agent, then you would want to build in some, what I would call error handling, like, hey, you don't have access, you're trying to access.
That was the old Delve problem, which is what they solved. The concept of like, well, I saw something because I had access to it. Oops.
Now,
like,
I will say a lot of the discussions that I have 2 to 3 times a week or more, or 2 to 3 times a week is usually about it, several times a month, is customers coming in and saying, we want to use Copilot, M365 Copilot. How do we make sure that our data is secure so that we don't find stuff so data by obscurity no longer works? So how do we, so that we talk.
Then you find out, it's like, well, can you find it now? Yes, it's not a Copilot problem.
No, it's not a Copilot problem, but it quickly becomes exposable because people are more apt to ask it questions.
Delve V2.
Instead of going hunting and pecking for it or searching. So then we have discussions about being data prepared and using tools in Purview to kind of see what data you have out there. So there's a data explorer when you get into the compliance center Purview, and then doing sensitivity labels, data loss prevention rules, and using SharePoint Advanced Management in the admin center to maybe block sites that you don't want Copilot to go out and search. So there's a whole lot to begin with before we even get into building agents that your organization should be looking into as far as making sure the data is secure as a whole, and then kind of monitoring what people are doing and what kind of searches are right. So it's a huge discussion to get into that. But the agent itself is then going to go basically at the data source that you build when you say, I wanted to like go after this SharePoint site and maybe pull information from this frequently asked questions site on my website and whatever. And then it's going to basically go from the information that you've given it and the permissions that you've given it. So if you're doing something differently, like using Copilot Studio to build them, and maybe going after a third-party data source like an SAP system or something like that, then that gets tricky because that doesn't necessarily pass your credentials. You might need to do something like a service account or something and build that into it.
It's like a custom connector situation. So I make an API call to an outside service. I created an API for it. Now I'm going to create a custom connector to it. And on that custom connector, it's going to, in my API, I'm going to have to take care of all that authentication in there first. And now my custom connector will have to handle passing along whatever it needs in order for it to authenticate. And it could be, you have to give me a username. I have to find your user. I have to make sure you're who you are based on this SSO type sort of thing. Then it gets tricky when you're working with that one. But then, of course, what the Copilot will not let you do out of the box is just simply let an external user come and get information. We saw, remember, he had the Power Pages where an external user could go in and potentially ask the Copilot for something. The Copilot will know just by context. That's the cool thing. Oh, unauthenticated user, you're definitely not on my list. You will not get that answer. You don't have to program anything to do it. You don't have to change it.
But to circle back to your question, and now thinking about it, it depends on what your data source is. If it's in the M365
Dataverse is straightforward.
or Dataverse, it will use your permissions as your user. If you're going to a third-party system, then that gets into how it depends on what you're trying to get out of that third-party system and how you're making that connection. That makes sense, or did we just over-explain it way too much?
No, it makes sense. I have a very specific use case I was thinking about, so that makes sense.
That's actually, it's a good question, because it's one of the number one questions that they always ask is like, can they see this? Do I have to do anything special? And that's why some people are afraid to do the Copilot stuff, and they're afraid to deploy Copilot. They're like worried, oh my gosh, I've turned it on and everything gets like shown up. It's like, well, are you responsible now? I said, yes, I'm very strict about being responsible. Then you should at least be okay for the most part. Have a small pilot, try things out.
We are getting better at the responsible AI stuff. So there are questions that people have asked that I don't know if they ever did, but like, hey, can you tell me my manager's salary, or can you tell me what everybody on my team makes? And those will get back with the answers like, sorry, I can't answer for you this time. Those kind of questions. So that's really what the
Copilot told me, well, nice try one time. He actually said, nice try.
That's what people, but that's a lot of the questions that we get asked is like, what happens if they do have any kind of guardrails, or we have to have everything locked down? Because they're worried about the spreadsheet being put in the wrong spot or something like that. So there are some guardrails to what you can ask, the responsible AI guidelines that we try to follow. And they're always working on improving that. And then it's permissions, and hopefully that you have it. Also, things like you can't ask it how to.
We probably have a recording of when Copilot came out, responsible AI. I think I spent 15 minutes on that on one of our podcasts. Yeah, as well, you'll probably find so many versions of that also as well. All right. Any other questions? Any other concerns?
Can I ask a Power BI Power BI question?
Absolutely.
Brandon?
Brandon, yeah.
Okay, so this is gonna sound like I'm quizzing you, but it's not meant to be.
I have Ralph as support.
No worry.
From a governance perspective, let's say a company of, I don't know, 20,000 employees, they all have E5 licenses, and they've been trained and shown the wonders of the power of what's possible with Power BI, and they all start creating reports and they put them on their My Workspace. in a previous life, I would train on OneDrive and I would tell people, you know, this is what you use OneDrive for. You do not want to put your mission critical SOPs and finance documents in your OneDrive because when you win the lottery or get hit by a bus, your email goes away and so does your OneDrive. And you don't want it. So what the question is what's the best way to do like an administrative query, maybe like a graph query or something that if CIO said to you, hey, of these 20,000 accounts, please find for me all these reports that are sitting in my workspaces and let's sort of crowdsource the goal of, hey, everybody, let's do the best practice, put it in this spot. Is there an easy way to query that if you have the right admin role?
I'm not 100% sure the answer on the query part. It's possible that in the COE, there might be some tool that would allow you to go and access, you know, people's My Workspace and get a report of what's in the workspace. I will say though, the one thing about My Workspace is you can't share anything that's in the workspace. So anything you build in your workspace would just be for that person. So it's even more restrictive than OneDrive, for example. So you can still share what's in your OneDrive with other users. If it's a report in your workspace, you can't share that with anyone else. No one else can actually view it. So to actually make it a report that would, you know, be used by more than just one person, it would have to go into a dedicated workspace that is then administered by the organization.
Okay, so unless they were like creating something and then, I don't know, exporting it to PowerPoint to send to their manager.
That would probably be the only way that they would even be able to surface that report to another user. Yeah.
So you're basically, by virtue of that, steering them to have to find what's the right workspace to put this on.
Yeah. To share, it has to be in a workspace administrated by organization. It cannot be shared from a workspace.
Okay, that's good.
So it kind of forces the user to get into that situation before they can even start sharing it with other people.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's still the use case to use your workspace. If it's something only you care about, or it's just something that maybe, you know, you want to see, you can use your workspace for that, or maybe a proof of concept before you go to your leader and say, hey, this is something that I think other people could benefit from. Let's talk about getting this into a shareable workspace. Yeah. Ralph might have some additional information on the querying part.
Yes, so the first answer is like, okay, it's not the issue of the fact that there's a workspace or the fact that there's a report. The fact is they're using data in those reports. Where is that data coming from? If that data is on their OneDrive, for example, guess what? We can actually see that data. We can actually run reports that say, what's sitting in your OneDrive? Oh, you nasty. You have something nasty in your OneDrive because nothing's secret, even if it's yours, into discovering it. Okay, let's say the data is coming from a table of somewhere. All right, well, that table would have to be in the company's viewpoint, like something that I know about. So it's a SQL table sitting on a server. Well, we know all about that server. We have our DLP, we have our purview, we have something on top of that server. Who can access it? Only these people. All right, so that's the only people who could see it. So so is there anything bad in that data? Oh, yes, there is. And only certain people can see it anyway. So now it doesn't matter what they create. I might have made a thing that I said, I might have created a report that says my boss's salary, but it's not true because I never really had access to my boss's salary. So I could have found a report that said that. Oh my gosh, let's get that guy. He's got my boss. And then basically it's like opening up to Jack in the Box and said, oh, yeah, made you look, because there was really no data. The concept in governance is governance of the data, which is now purview, fabric, all that stuff now happening at that level is where we start looking at it. And the idea is if we take care of the data on governance, if we govern the data, then we really don't care who's got an Excel, who's got a Power BI, because that's also the problem. Is not just Power BI, it's Excel too, right? I have Excel, I do a Power Query, same thing. And people used to run companies on Excel. Well, actually, some might still do a little bit. And so it's like, what gall do they have to actually do that? There's no gall. They have access to the data. They got the skills. They're the Liam Neeson of Excel. They're going to make it happen. But if I close down the data, I don't care how Liam Neeson you are, you're not getting a pivot table from me based on this.
So you're saying it's not really the end user's fault. You don't want to chase them down. You want to secure it at the source so that it's never an issue.
That's right. So the issue is not the user's fault that they created the report that's using sensitive data. The issue is you let sensitive data get used by that user. All right. And if there are any users there that shouldn't have had the data in the first place, then that's where you have to go back and find out, look at your data estate and fix that problem. And so the M365 is one place to look, but usually the problem is not that. Usually the problem is there's some database somewhere that they have access to, a SQL, an Oracle, something else. That's where in fact, because it's a something else, that's where usually the leaks are in. As far as like, at least what Microsoft is not looking at, because they're like, I only see my stuff unless you give me permission to see the others. Right?
To your point, I will add on, from a workspace that's shareable, a user could connect to their OneDrive and grab data from their OneDrive. So that is something that could be done. However, at that point, because it's in a shareable workspace, as Ralph mentioned, the admins would be able to see in the data source, even one of the pictures I show in the lineage view for the workspace, you would see that there's OneDrive connections. And at that point, the administrator would be able to say, okay, let's go to this OneDrive source. Let's get the data out of this OneDrive into a better data source.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And then the administrators can also look and say, oh, you're connecting to that data source. That's disallowed by policy.
As soon as it goes into a shareable workspace, the admins have full visibility into where data is coming from.
Okay, yeah, it's not like I'm trying to be big brother, but I've been like, usually, not to place blame on finance teams, but you go to a finance team and they love Excel, they throw it in OneDrive, they start sharing these Q2, Q3 reports that are, like it just kind of grows. And so, yeah, to be able to query it and see what's happening, would, because eventually someone at C-level is going to ask to do,
I think they also have, like, especially if you're using Fabric, you can see who's using reports and to what volume. It's like the whole point of those analytical tools is like, and in fact, I think it was one of our big customers that came and said, we want to make a data mart. And what, like a data mart, like a market. We're going to put this data out here and we want people to come use the data, but we want to measure who's using the data and how much, because that's how much we're going to charge these folks, whoever's using a lot. And then, and we're going to tell these people who posted their data, you have data that you want to make money on, you pay us, and we'll put you on here. And by the way, this is the places that are going to make the most money if you put it over here and everything else. In other words, they see where the data is going through. And one of the things they wanted to know is if Joe User somewhere made a Power BI that uses that data, they want the box to check. If somebody uses an Excel to connect it, the box check. If somebody used to do it and then they stopped using it because they saw the data, I don't like it, I don't use it anymore. They want to know, uncheck. They wanted to know that. How could you figure that out? I said, well, you have to look at it from the data side. Every time, if I'm SQL, it said, look at SQL. I'm sitting here, I'm a SQL Server database. I know I'm being connected to. I just open up and this is a mess. And like, okay, look how many connections I got going. Look how much traffic and transactions and stuff are going. I mean, it's raw data, but you know that by now somebody has made a nice report to say, these are the people's, or rather these are the IPs or wherever this data is going to. Since that exists, there's got to be some sort of monitoring. And that's where it begins. And there's tools that you pay for that used to do it. Now Microsoft is able to do it. Microsoft was like, here's the data. Oh, have fun. Oh, if you need that, you need to go to a vendor to get that view. Now, Purview, Fabric, all that stuff says, you know what? We got skills too, and this is our stuff. So use our tools. Pay us instead. I think that's the idea there. All right.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We kept now everyone's hungry. You have to get everything else. We'll make it up to you. And the next time I'm gonna have to double up on the food budget then. For sure. And just in the morning.
I'll come home.
It got too busy.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
I think we're done over here unless there's something online, and I think we're closing up.
Oh, it's the only person online is Raquel.
Okay, Raquel, if you can close up on the side over there and then publish as soon as possible. Okay, great. Thank you so much, honey.
Thank you.
Around almost my daughter over there, by the way. It's Raquel. She's our.
Some relation, some